If your bank app ever looks fine, but everything is stuck on pending, that's not a random glitch. That's a warning light, because your balance is just a number. What matters is settlement, whether payments are actually finalized between banks, merchants, and payroll. When settlement slows, holds last longer, transfers stall, and approvals get inconsistent. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through day 1, day 3, and week 1. What's normal friction, what's a real lock, and the checklist mindset that keeps you calm. Day 1 usually doesn't look like the banks are gone. It looks like the pipes are clogged. Here's what breaks first: payment rails and settlement. Settlement is the back-end step where Bank A and Bank B finalize who owes what, and the merchant truly gets paid. When that slows, everyone gets cautious, because nobody wants to release goods or cash on a promise that clears later. So what do you see in your own account? First, your displayed balance can look fine while your usable money gets weird. You'll see more holds, bigger holds, and holds that last longer. Gas stations and hotels do this a lot. In a freeze, that hold can sit there and eat your available balance even though it's not a real spend yet. Second, pending spreads. Purchases that would normally post in a day or two just sit. Refunds slow down. Reversals take longer. If your budget is tight, timing is everything. Now, cards. Your physical card might work in one place and fail in another with no clear pattern. Approvals happen in layers. When banks can't predict settlement, they start declining anything that looks riskier. Online orders, big-ticket items, travel, electronics. Transfers are the next headache. ACH and wires don't break. They stop making promises. Next business day turns into, "We'll update you." Banks add verification steps and some transfers get kicked to manual review. And the worst move you can make on day 1 is doing one giant transfer and hoping it lands. Because if it gets stuck, you just trapped your own liquidity mid-air. Cash access gets uneven. Some ATMs work, some don't. Some run out faster than you'd expect. And even when they work, limits can drop. Not because your bank hates you, but because every bank is trying to protect physical cash while they figure out what's happening. Merchants react fast. You'll see more cash only. Some terminals go offline. Some places add surcharges. Sometimes it's just a connectivity issue, plus a bank on the other end tightening approvals. And here's the human pattern. People stop browsing and start grabbing. The product didn't change. The payment confidence did. Imagine you're at dinner, trying to split a bill. You tap send. It spins. Your friend tries. It spins. Nobody's bankrupt. The system just can't confirm the handoff. That awkward silence is what a settlement problem feels like in real life. So your day 1 owner checklist is simple. Confirm you can access money in more than one way: card, ATM, and an alternative account if you have it. Screenshot or download balances and recent transactions. Prioritize essentials and defer anything optional. And if you need to pay someone important, communicate early and keep proof of every attempt. Because if day 1 is friction, day 3 is when friction turns into rationing. By day 3, you're not just seeing random glitches, you're seeing policy, and it shows up as quiet controls that feel personal, even when they're system-wide. Here's the logic. Banks don't know how much money will leave versus arrive, or how fast they can turn assets into cash, so they protect liquidity. The easiest way is to slow withdrawals and slow outbound payments. So you'll notice limits tighten. Daily ATM caps drop. Instant transfer limits get reduced. Card spending limits get adjusted, sometimes without a clean notification. That gap is the system saying, "We see the balance, we're controlling the exit speed." Most people think a freeze means a total lock. More often, it's a soft freeze. Longer holds, delayed availability, manual reviews, higher fraud sensitivity. And declines start to look selective. Your normal grocery run might go through, but an electronics purchase gets flagged. An airline ticket gets declined, or a transfer to a new recipient fails. If you're the bank system, you're not judging you as a person. You're scoring the transaction. Low amount, normal merchant, local. That's boring, so it passes. Big amount, new recipient, cross-border, or something easy to resell, that's velocity. So it gets slowed, reviewed, or declined. Not because your money vanished, because the system is rationing movement. Payroll timing gets messy too. Even if your employer has funds, the deposit chain still has to settle. If the rails are slow, paychecks post late. Gig apps can pause payouts. And if you're paid through an intermediary, that middle layer may hold cash longer to protect itself. So what do you do if income is delayed? Assume timing risk is real. Don't schedule your life down to the hour. And talk early. If you have a landlord, a lender, or childcare, you communicate before the due date. The transfer is stuck. I'm documenting it. Here's what I can do today. Bills and autopay are a trap on day 3. Autopay doesn't think. It just fires. So here's the owner move. Hit the kill switch. Pause or disable autopay until settlement is normal again. You want to choose what leaves your account and when. Because if payments bounce, you can get a cascade. One failed bill triggers fees, then another bill hits while your available balance is trapped in holds. Switch to manual triage. What keeps your life stable first? Housing, utilities, food, transportation, medicine, and the 1 or 2 obligations that cause the most damage if missed. Small businesses feel it hard, and you feel it through them. Suppliers start demanding faster money. No net 30, pay today. Contractors ask for cash. Some places give cash discounts because card settlement feels uncertain. You also get a 2-tier payment reality. In-network transfers can still move, like internal transfers within the same bank group. But cross-bank transfers stall. Cross-border is worse. So your owner move is to act on what you can verify. Keep receipts, screenshots, confirmation numbers. Build redundancy if you can. Multiple access methods, multiple rails. And avoid one big transfer. Make smaller moves you can track. Because by week 1, this stops being a payments story. It becomes a real economy story. This is the part people get wrong. Big freezes rarely start with a headline that says, "Money is gone." They start with movement getting restricted. We've seen versions of this in places like Cyprus in 2013 and Lebanon later on. The balance can exist on paper, but access gets rationed and businesses reprice around that uncertainty. Week 1 is when you notice something uncomfortable. Prices adjust before shelves empty. That's not just greed. It's replacement cost. Here's the merchant's secret. The store owner isn't pricing for what's on the shelf. They're pricing for the next invoice. If they sell you milk for $4 today, but the restock lands at $6, cash up front, slower settlement, they just paid $2 for the privilege of going out of business. So they raise prices early because fear moves faster than shipments. Imports tighten first. Anything with foreign inputs or global pricing gets hit early. Fuel, certain medicines, electronics, auto parts, basic packaging. If international settlement slows, shipments wait. If shipments wait, local inventory gets thin. And once inventory gets thin, you get quantity limits and fewer discounts. Cash becomes a bottleneck. More people want it, but banks and cash logistics can't scale instantly. ATMs don't refill themselves, so cash only expands unevenly. And you start hearing a new question everywhere. What do you take? Credit tightens fast too. Buy now, pay later pauses. Card issuers cut exposure. Credit lines get reviewed. Lenders go into wait-and-see mode because they don't trust cash flow forecasts when settlement is unstable. Social behavior shifts. People hoard. Resale markets show up for essentials. You get weird local microeconomies. One store still takes cards. Another only takes cash. A third will take bank transfer, but only if it's the same bank. Pause for 10 seconds and audit your own setup. If your primary bank app says pending, how many ways can you still pay for a tank of gas today? Card, cash, a second account, a second rail? If the answer is 1, you don't need panic. You need options. Now, what's temporary versus sticky? Usually, some functions come back in layers. You might see partial restoration of card processing, but with lower limits. Transfers might resume, but with longer holds. Banks may reopen, but with ongoing controls as they rebuild confidence and manage outflows. So your week one positioning is calm and practical. You prioritize essentials. You find local substitutes. You keep your income flexible if you can. Hours, clients, payment methods. And you stop assuming one app equals one identity. You want options because the real damage in a freeze isn't the number in your account. It's the loss of trust that makes everyone demand proof upfront. Remember this: money usually doesn't disappear first. Movement does. If you want my full owner checklist for payment redundancy and buying power protection, watch the next video and subscribe.